Hello and welcome back to On the Couch. The Office of Social Justice, Inclusion, and Conflict Resolution exists to promote an inclusive university community where individuals are empowered to grow in their understanding of their identity, social justice, and the skills needed to lead a more just society. With us to discuss the office is Graduate Coordinator for Women's Inclusion Programs, Samantha Wagner. Welcome to On the Couch.
Thank you for having me.
Well, so that was obviously a mouthful, so
yes.
Can you kind of simplify what all your title is in the office and what you guys necessarily do?
So the Office of Social Justice, Inclusion, and Conflict Resolution is the product of something called Project 3, which happened last year. Around this time, students approached the administration and worked together to basically create physical space for LGBTQIA resource center, a women's resource center, and a multicultural resource center. So there's physical space now in Robinson 118, where we have 3 distinct centers as well as 4 graduate coordinators, 2 graduate interns, and student workers as well as full-time staff to help pretty much just do programming and events related to social justice and building awareness of these different issues. Yeah, and my title, I'm the graduate coordinator for Women's and Inclusion Programs, so I work with programs based on gender equity, building community between women on Rowan's campus, and making sure that it's a more equitable place, inclusive of all genders and sexuality identity.
Okay, now it says the skills needed to live a more just society. What are some of those skills that you teach?
So a lot of the skills that come are different programs. It's not we do offer some training seminars. Like this week is Trans Awareness Week, so we are looking at different issues in the transgender community. One of the things that we had today was a workshop on trans microaggressions. So where people could come to learn from, I can't remember his name, to learn from a respected faculty in the field, learn about different things that affect the trans community and strategies to help combat those microaggressions. In the women's community, what we do, we have a couple different programs running. We have we have a Women of Color Collective group, we have a Patchwork Feminist group, and then we also have the Rowan University Men's Action Network, where men come together and talk about different ways to help solve sexual violence and domestic violence and their role as men in these different things. So a lot of the skills are basically just listening, understanding, empathy, more listening, and really just and team building, working together as marginalized groups and as allies to combat these unjust things in the world.
Now, is this something where you meet like periodically every week, or is it kind of just sporadic?
So there's some groups that are groups on campus, like in our Women's Center. We have Patchwork and we have Women of Color Collective and RU Man, which meet at certain times during the semester. It's more of a conversation series, sort of structured, more formal, but we have events that spotlight different days, Heritage Months, all of that stuff. So we have a lot. We have clubs that meet with us. We have different awareness days that we do events to raise awareness for. And yeah, so there's a good mix. There's something for everybody. If you want a more structured, more formalized thing, we have that. If you just want to come to a program, we have that too. So it's basically just come together and learning about and really just being an active participant in changing the culture of Rowan's campus.
So you said you're the grad coordinator for the women's office. What exactly do you do at the office?
So some of the things that I've been doing this semester, this is the office's first full school year in operation. We opened last year around November, and I was lucky enough to be an intern in the office last semester as part of my practicum coursework. So when this position opened up, I'm the first person to hold this position. So a lot of it is doing programming and building things from the ground up. So programming that we have done this semester, we've opened up a lactation center and nursing mother's room for working parents at Rowan to breastfeed and express milk on break, and students as well. On break from classes and work, we have a Women's Center blog which features pieces on women's and gender equity created by students, as well as it serves like a real-time newsletter for things that are going on. So we have different summaries of events that we've held, different comments on different things that we've talked about that week. And then we have our 3 kind of mainstay flagship programs. So we have Patchwork, which started last semester, which is a women's conversation series focusing on topics in the women's community. Some things that we've talked about this semester are what it means to be a woman in our families, what it looks like in our classrooms, what it looks like in the workforce, equity versus equality, and then this past week we just talked about women in different private subcultures like the military and the police, and ways that we can help really build that including everyone and putting everybody on kind of a gender equal playing field. We have Women of Color Collective, which is brand new this semester. It's where women of anybody who self-identifies as a woman of color, faculty, student, staff, can come together and really just talk about issues that are affecting their community and different action pieces that they can do with it. And then Are You Man, which is the Men's Action Network, like I said earlier, it focuses on a men's role in stopping domestic violence and sexual assault.
So again, as a male, how could I kind of help out with more women involved? Because I grew up in a female-dominated household, so it's always interests me.
So Are You Man meets every Friday. So some of the things we had Domestic Violence Awareness Week, where we had different panels, different de-escalation trainings, co-sponsors with us by the Wellness Center, to just learn. And Are You Man, it really just talks about different implications of masculinity, and how those narrow concepts of what it means to be a man and what it means to be kind of like the gendered behaviors, how that plays into a whole thing. It's an all gender issue. But men have a great role as an ally to women, as a feminist ally to women, understanding their role, understanding their privilege, and saying, this is how I would like to help. Understand your perspective and really just kind of take ownership of those privileges and work around different ways to do that. Last week, I know our intern Joe led a great discussion on a Jackson Katz TED Talk that really says that the issue of domestic violence and sexual assault should be primarily men. Like, how can we stop this? Men are victims, and we totally understand that and we agree with it, but the majority of sexual and domestic assault is perpetrated by men. So by we actually I just came from the diversity prof talk where Joe talked about this as well, and by leaving the perpetrators out of the conversation, by making that conversation a victim-centered, we're really kind of leaving out that huge group that can actually do something to change it. And it starts, within your own community, within the informals. If somebody makes a sexist comment, call them out on it. Nicely, of course. You don't want to scare anybody away. But you want to call them out, maybe privately. It starts really from the ground up. We can do all the programs that we want to do, but we're not faculty, and we're not there at those social situations where bystanders are really the big player in stopping it. So as a man, I went on a ramble a little bit. So as a man, ways that you can get involved or start looking at how, either you treat women, other people are treating women, look at it and say, what can I do to make this more different? And do not make this more different. What can I do to really just kind of help it? What can I do to understand? So taking the perspective of the victim, taking this perspective of kind of putting, using empathy, putting yourself in those shoes and saying, how can I stop this?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's all really useful information. And thank you so much for coming, Sam. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll be right back for more On the Couch.